The winter of 2006, I was covering crime for the LA Weekly. Everything from, gang killings to love affairs gone bad. I used to go and visit the coroner's office just to see if there was any cases. The coroner told me about these body dumps. There were 38 women on the list, and it was women whose bodies were found in alleyways and parks in South Central.
The majority of the women were African American, and many of them were sex workers.
I started making calls to different detectives about it. They were not used to getting calls from the media on cases like that. But as I was going through the list, I ended up coming to 2 cases that were linked through DNA to a series of .25 caliber shootings back in the 80s. And I was completely shocked when I heard this, because I had never heard anything before about any serial killer in South Central. Eventually, we would call him the Grim Sleeper, because of this very big gap between the killings.
We all knew that it was someone out there killing women. At that time, he wasn't called the Grim Sleeper, he was just called a man killing prostitutes.
I'm a retired detective from the Los Angeles Police Department. My last 10 years working unsolved murders. We had an epidemic of murders in South Los Angeles, where young black women were being found murdered on the streets, in abandoned homes, in alleyways. There's a body found underneath a mattress in an alleyway, and she had a piece of cloth stuffed down her throat. She's been shot at least once. No casings were found at the scene.
My name is Rochelle Johnson, and I'm Henrietta Wright's daughter.
Henrietta Wright, called Cody by family and friends, was the mother of 5 children. The coroner finds that Wright was sexually assaulted, then killed by a bullet fired from a .25 caliber pistol.
No casings were found at the scene. So she was most likely shot somewhere else and then dumped in this out-of-the-way place. 911 police dispatchers receive a phone call from an unidentified male saying, "Hey, a guy just dropped off a body in an alley." He describes the vehicle as it being a blue and white van. He provides a license number for the van.
What's your name?
Oh, I don't stand anonymous. I know too many people. Okay, then, bye-bye.
All right.
They discovered that she had been shot by a small caliber firearm.
Investigators used fingerprints to identify the victim as Barbara Ware. Like Henrietta Wright, Barbara had fallen victim to the streets and crack.
When she was taken to the coroner's office, they found that just like Henrietta Wright, Barbara had been shot in the chest with a .25 caliber pistol. And ballistically, the bullets matched Henrietta Wright's murder.
Our firearms unit started comparing bullets recovered from the bodies of Henrietta Wright and Barbara Ware.
They discovered those slugs match bullets recovered from 2 other murder victims.
There was a murder on January 15, 1984. Her name was Sharon Alice Dismuke. Then Deborah Jackson was found murdered in August of 1985 in an alleyway in South Los Angeles. They realized that the same .25 caliber gun that was used to kill Deborah was also used to kill Sharon.
By the fourth murder, we know we have a serial murderer who's using the same firearm. Bernita Sparks' body is found in a dumpster down around 94th Street in Western. The location is to the rear of a church.
Bernita Sparks had as well been shot in the chest with a .25 caliber. Mary Lowe is found dead in an alleyway, and her body was found by a father and his son who were walking in the area.
Mary Lowe was at a club of sorts around 92nd Street in Western. She was last seen leaving there, walking northbound on Western alone.
And the next morning, her body is found in an alleyway not far from the bar where she was. The killings continued on after that.
I walked past the liquor store and saw this car, this orange Pinto. Then he goes, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to a party later on." He said, "Well, can I go to the party?" And I was like, "Okay, let me change clothes and I'll let you take me over to my friend's house."
The man drives the car away from where Anitria wants to go. And then he starts calling her Brenda.
And everything just went quiet. And I'm like, okay, it's time to get out this car. So I reached for the handle and he shot me in my chest, point blank. Now I'm losing where I'm at and I passed out. My clothes are down. And this man was on top of me taking pictures.
Her attacker speeds off in the orange Pinto, leaving Anitria to die.
It was dark and I was bleeding, but I was thinking, okay, I need to go to my friend Linda's. I'm walking toward her house, leaving a trail of blood. I had walked a mile. While I'm there laying on her porch, Linda pulls up, her and her husband. And I was like, call 911.
Emergency room doctors operate on Anitria for hours and remove a .25 caliber slug from her chest.
The next thing I know, these detectives walk in on me. They brought in a sketch artist and they said, "Can you describe him?" He was a little short guy, black. He looked like a guy who just came out of Circuit City. He had a polo shirt and some khakis on.
Problem was, other than the car, there's nothing really unique about the man.
Tips dry up, and by 1989, the Southside Slayer Task Force disbands. Time passes, and the cases go as cold as the killer's heart.
A year later, I noticed that this guy was on the bus with me all the time, but he would never get off where I got off. And I was like, well, don't pay no attention to it. Just, mind your business. All of a sudden it dawned on me who it was. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I knew it was him. So then I called the detectives. No, we just need you to look at these pictures and see if you recognize any of these men. And I was like, no, it's not him. These pictures aren't of him. I would know him if I saw him. Years and years went by, and the case went cold. I was upset. I was really pissed off. They weren't really looking. They weren't trying to find out who hurt me. This is a black person. We don't care.
LAPD started a cold case unit to look at unsolved murders beginning in 1960 to the present.
Cold case detectives are counting on advances in DNA technology to breathe new life into old cases. Investigators discover a DNA link between 3 victims from the 80s and a murder victim from 2003.
That victim was Valerie McCorvey.
Valerie was a 35-year-old mother of two when she was found dead in an alley in South Los Angeles.
6 days later, a second DNA hit in the CODIS system links Valerie McCorvey's unidentified killer to evidence from a recent unsolved murder. A tipster leads police to the body of an unidentified female. The killer left her in an alley less than 2 miles from where he left Mary Lowe, Bernita Sparks, and Anitria Washington. It takes 5 months, but police finally identify the victim as 15-year-old Princess Bartholomew. And unlike the .25 caliber murders from the 80s, both Princess Bartholomew and Valerie McCorvey were strangled to death.
He's not using the firearm. So now we have him changing his MO.
I've seen this van several times. This one particular time, I guess it was my lucky night. He said, "You who?" I said, hey. So we end up going to the motel. He shows me the handcuffs. You know, he wants me to put on this thing, this little neck J, and then bark and act like a dog. Who the f does that? I said, okay, this is not gonna work. He said, let me drop you off. I said, no, you ain't gotta drop me off. From here, I can make it. And I'm lucky that he didn't shoot me, because I didn't do nothing he wanted me to do. Damn. I made it out the rapture. He didn't get me.
A homeless guy was climbing in the dumpster to, find cans and found a big garbage bag. And he cut a little hole in the garbage bag and found the body of Janisha Peters.
It's not until April that Detective Shepard gets word that DNA found on a zip tie from the garbage bag Janisha Peters was found in is yet another match to the serial killer. Veteran homicide detective Dennis Kilcoyne is given the green light to create a task force.
It was a group of 7 detectives, and they just dive into the murder books and see what they could come up with.
A detail from Barbara Ware's murder in 1987 stands out.
911 police dispatchers receive a phone call from an unidentified male saying, hey, a guy just drove in the alley and dropped off a body.
The guy that dropped it off was driving a white and blue Dodge van, 1PZP746.
Part of the license plate was covered up, and so the task force actually came to the conclusion that it was the killer who made that call.
He threw her out, threw a gas tank on top of her, and the only thing you can see out is her feet.
I'm reading an article in the newspaper that our Attorney General is now approving familial DNA testing for certain cases.
They're basically looking for a relative, like a cousin, a brother, an uncle, who is related to the killer and who could be in the federal or state databanks.
When I read that, I said, this is what we need.
But it came back, there was no hits.
They said, our database is growing day by day, and give it about a year and we'll see. So we did. I mean, that's all we could do, is sit and wait. It was a Saturday, and I said, hey, you want to come to work? And I said, what's going on? He said, we got a potential suspect.
It actually hit on a 28-year-old male, Christopher Franklin. The problem was he would have been a young boy at the time that the murder started. They looked into his father, a man named Lonnie Franklin Jr., and they saw that Lonnie Franklin Jr. lived in South Los Angeles.
He had worked for the city of Los Angeles for a number of years, and one of his positions happened to be with the Department of Sanitation. And we knew several victims were found in or near trash dumpsters and things of that nature.
He lived on 81st and Western, and that was the epicenter of where all the murders took place.
We have surveillance teams on Lonnie Franklin, watching his house, watching for him, tailing him 24 hours a day to obtain a DNA sample. Finally, after about the third day, he went to a pizza place.
The surveillance team decided that one of them would pretend that he was a busboy.
The cop collects the uneaten items and takes it back to the back, where it's packaged up and transported directly to our laboratory. It was going to take 2 to 3 days to get the analysis done. On day 3, we get the call. This is him. It's a match. The DNA from all the victims match him.
Police arrest Franklin.
I was watching the news, and I was like, damn, I was with the Grim Sleeper. I knew it was something strange about that.
Details about Franklin emerge, and people in the community are shocked that the killer is one of their own.
A lot of people that I knew him.
His wife was a church woman.
Lonnie had been married for over 30 years. He was a grandfather, and he had a couple of grandchildren.
I had a revenge tactic in my head when I was in the courtroom. He's done all these things to these women, and he gets to sit there all dressed up and sit there. He's still able to walk around and breathe.
Unitria Washington testified during the trial, and that was really, really moving and unbelievable just to see her like face this guy and go after him.
On May 5th, 2016, a jury finds Lonnie Franklin guilty of 10 counts of murder and the attempted murder of Unitria Washington.
In the end, he was caught. That's the best part. But never once did he utter why he did it.
I can't think of anyone that I've encountered in all my many years in the criminal justice system that has committed the kind of monstrous and the number of monstrous crimes that you have. It is the judgment and sentence of this court that you shall suffer the death penalty.
In the end, this man got what he deserved.
To hear those words read to the courtroom and the gallery is extremely emotional.